Welcome, school directors, to the February 26th LegRep Network meeting. We are still right in the midst of a legislative session, but quickly turning our attention to the position platform window, as well as our General Assembly coming up later in this fall, as we think about the end of session and what needs are still remaining, which are plentiful, I know. We want to be sure to equip you with the tools that you need in order to effectively advocate within your member organization, the Washington State School Directors Association. So thanks again for being here with us tonight. Today's goals specifically are to help you understand what your role as a LegRep are as it relates to the position window, and then also for General Assembly. Hopefully, some of you have had some experience with this and would be willing to share your experience. So we'll open up the opportunity at the end for you to do so, which greatly benefits others who have not gone through this process before. I see some new names in the registration here tonight. Then would love for you to have a good understanding and know the process for actually submitting a position proposal should your board choose to do so. And then help provide you with access to resources to help you lead in this way. And of course, field any questions as they come. So the LegRep role as it relates to WSSDA's position platform. So when I say WSSDA's position platform, I am referring specifically to the 225 legislative and permanent positions that members have adopted at General Assemblies, or previously known as Legislative Assembly, since the beginning of the process of adopting positions, which dates way back into the 70s, maybe even the 60s. So that position platform is reviewed every single year, and we provide members the opportunity to bring forward suggested changes to the existing positions or to submit brand new positions where they might identify some gaps. To help you navigate this, we will continuously post information on the legislative representatives webpage. That link is provided here. In addition, I'll be going through some of the web pages from WSSDA that will be particularly useful for this exercise, both under our positions catalog as well as General Assembly page. The legislative representative goals, as you may or may not be aware, just generally speaking, are to encourage school directors, your fellow school directors, to follow the legislative developments more actively at the local level and to help inform them of what types of advocacy efforts and opportunities exist so that they can engage effectively. Another goal in your role as LegRep is to be able to access and navigate the position platform so that you and your fellow board members can support WSSDA's advocacy work and also know where members stand on particular issues. Of course, the continuous building of relationships with local, state, and federal policymakers regarding your own school district, but also WSSDA's legislative positions and priorities. And as it relates specifically to our operating and model policy on legislative representatives, which your board may or may not have adopted and have one in place, this is the model policy language. Lists a variety of things that LegReps could and possibly should be responsible for, one of which very specifically names that you are obtaining your board's support for a legislative proposal submitted to WSSDA's General Assembly and supporting that proposal at the Assembly. So as a LegRep, you play a significant role, especially, well, really year round, but especially in this process as your board considers how it may want to show up in the submission of a position through our window, as well as at General Assembly, having a voice for your school district of the 295 school boards that are invited to show up and participate. So with that, I'm just going to take a breath. I don't see any questions in the chat, but I will again just invite you, if you have any questions about this process, to please feel free to pop them in the chat. I will also share this PowerPoint presentation. Okay, so a little bit about the position platform revision process. Over the course of the last 5 years that I've been in this role, I've unpacked this process multiple times in multiple ways. I really tried tonight to distill it for you in sort of a step-by-step process. And again, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to let me know. So as you're thinking about step one, which could very well be right now, anywhere between February and March, we would be asking you during hopefully a time that is set regularly during your board meeting agendas to discuss what's going on in the legislative session as well as what will happen in the legislative session. We'll know all of that a little over a week from now. To be discussing the goings on and the outcomes of the 2024 legislative session, and then to turn and discuss gaps and opportunities for advocacy and potential future legislation with your fellow school board members. There are multiple resources in place to help you navigate this discussion or discussions, it should be, probably won't just be one time. There is in session, so every Friday, WSSDA develops a sort of a high-level overview of what happened with some key interest areas, maybe even action alerts, and then a look ahead for the week in front of us, which there's only one more left, if you can believe it. You also always have WSSDA staff available, and then WASA puts out a very comprehensive and deep dive every week on specific policy bills. They call it TWIO, which stands for This Week in Olympia. So these are all resources for you to refer to when you are discussing with your fellow school directors what types of issues you might think need to be brought forward in future legislative sessions, specifically from WSSDA, your member organization. Moving on to step two, which is sort of an overlapping time frame, is that you review with your fellow school board members the existing WSSDA position platform so that you can identify your board's interests. The way that we would recommend you do that, and I'm going to go ahead and click on this now. And I'm hoping, I don't see anyone on screen. So I'm going to stop share and then reshare because my experience has been that often it doesn't toggle very well. So you're seeing in front of you a little bit too small of text. Now it's bigger of the positions catalog. These are all 225 member adopted positions. And if you're looking for any particular issue area, let's say you've discussed with your board that you really want to elevate the issue of transportation and wonder if WSSDA has any positions on transportation. So over here in the search box, I would recommend you type a word search and then click on that, and it will give you every position that has been member adopted that either has the word that you typed in the search bar either in the title or within the context of the position itself. You'll notice here that in the case of transportation, we already have 5 positions that touch on the issue of transportation. Those are all legislative positions, which means they are written in such a way to be action-oriented and readily available to prioritize during the prioritization process following General Assembly. And I'll tell you more about that in a little bit. This is important for you to first check whether or not positions exist related to the issue areas that you care about, because like I said before, if we just go back to this main list and the overarching table, the number here is 225. That is a lot of positions. And I would argue that in some cases, because there are so many positions, sometimes it sort of dilutes the messaging of a single one. I hope we move in the direction of consolidation of these positions so that they're easier to find, easier to access, and quite frankly, more impactful, because when you have this many, it sort of spreads our attention pretty thin, and I really want to help you draw attention to the things that matter the most. But in between now and then, the keyword search is your friend, and highly encourage you to think about what positions currently exist that could be amended to meet your board's interests, as opposed to submitting a brand new position proposal. All that being said, if you don't see anything resembling an issue or topic that you are interested in, by all means, you have the opportunity to submit a new position proposal through the window as well. I'm going to go ahead and stop share of the screen, and I'm going to pop the PowerPoint presentation back up to walk you through. So that's step one. So you're reviewing the position platform, identifying if any exists that sort of relate to an interest area of your boards, and that helps you move on then to step three. If you have identified that there are any gaps in the existing position platform, determine if your board tends to amend one of the existing positions or submit a new position proposal, and you could do either. Draft a revision or a new position with your board, and you can share it out with a variety of folks if you want to just get some feedback. The more eyes you have on it, the more secure it is in its writing, and it's always nice to have what we might call critical friends who can say, well, that language doesn't really make sense. Can you help clarify? So all of that will help your position proposal be more successful at General Assembly. So the more opportunities you have to get feedback, highly recommend. Some of your greatest assets in that regard are going to be members of the Legislative and Resolutions Committee, and their contact information is linked here by director area. So you have one Resolutions Committee member representing you by director area, and generally 2 legislative committee members, and maybe 4 if you're from the Seattle King County area. So lots of resources there, and I would highly encourage you to use them. I would also offer, if you want me to take a look at it before you submit it, I'm happy to do so. You can just send it to me in an email and I'll give you feedback, or even just ask questions, which might help you clarify what you want to say. Then another link here, I would encourage you to click on this link before you submit. So this is something to take a look at as you're drafting. It will help you walk through the essential elements of a proposal before you submit. And actually, I think I am going to click on it just because I think it's really important for you to see, and I don't want you to miss any details here since this is an opportunity to share them. So as you're looking through this checklist, sort of covered this one already. Consider the issues within the school board's purview needing legislative advocacy. Got a little checkbox here. Review the member adopted positions to see if your board's interests are already represented. Then 3, before crafting a new position to propose, determine if your board can amend an existing WASDA position instead. I think we've hit that nail on the head for you, so hopefully you got it. Reach out to your director area representatives on the ledge or res committees if you have questions about how they might consider the position, and they may have some insights to share. Schedule 1 or more board meetings to discuss and vote on your board's proposal, and we'll get to that in a minute, but your board does have to approve the proposal before it is submitted. You will be asked for your board's date of approval as part of the submission, and if you don't have it, your proposal will be rejected until you can submit it with an approval date. And then you might even want to consider sharing your board's proposal with other boards. You may have heard at annual conference or various other events, Ledge Conference, that there are other boards who might be interested in something similarly. So perhaps you can all work together to submit that proposal together. And then there would be multiple school districts listed when it makes it into the General Assembly Handbook. A couple things just to note as you develop your proposal, please do not include any RCWs or WACs. So those are statutory references. Those change pretty consistently, as unfortunately you're aware of. And so by including those, it makes those positions sort of obsolete once they're changed and necessitates another amendment. So I would just reference the topic area. You don't need to reference the statute itself, although there is a space in the position proposal where you can share supporting resources, which could include existing statute, should you wish to do so. If you are proposing a position, please note that when you're writing it, permanent positions start by saying WSSDA believes. And then legislative positions begin by saying WSSDA will support or initiate legislation that. So that's the differentiation largely between those two positions. WSSDA believe a permanent position is more of a core value, a belief statement of the organization, whereas a legislative position is more action-oriented and often represents more emerging issues. For instance, at last year's General Assembly, you all adopted a position on artificial intelligence. So that's not a permanent position at this time, but it's very relevant to current discussions and issues as it relates to public education. If you use an acronym at any time, please be sure you completely spell it out the first time you use it, and then you can just use the acronym from then on. I would recommend that you build your proposal language in a Word document first, because that will allow you to check for spelling, grammar, and your word count. Be as concise as possible. Clear is kind, and also easier to understand. Provide any data, statutory reference, work group reports, or other resources in the supplemental documents section. It'll allow you to upload or type in information, which will help WSSDA staff as well as the Leg and Reds committees build a rationale statement for your position. And if you'd like some specific language in that rationale statement, feel free to include it there. And then, of course, be prepared to provide the board meeting date when the proposal was approved. So this is a link in the PowerPoint presentation as well as on our website. I would highly encourage you to print this out for all of your members as you are working through proposals that you intend to send. Okay. Thanks for sticking with me, folks. We're going to go back to the PowerPoint. And I'll just reference this. I'm not going to pull up the who can submit. As it relates to legislative and permanent positions, all 295 school boards can submit a position proposal, and it could be an amended position, it could be a new position. You could even suggest retiring a position if you feel it has already been achieved, or you can suggest a consolidation of two positions that seem overlapping or similar. But the most common submissions are from boards hoping to amend existing positions or submit a new one. So as soon as now and as late as April, you could present the proposal that you have drafted and hopefully vetted with some others at a public board meeting for the board's official vote. Once the online form is available, which will open March 11th, you can submit anytime between March 11th and April 5th. That is the position window when you are able to submit. That is a full 4 weeks for the submission process. We are creeping up on March 11th, so if you haven't started these conversations yet, I would highly encourage you at your next board meeting to start with step 1 and quickly start working through to step 4, because you will find that April 8th is going to sneak up on you pretty quick. And we will be closing the position proposal window at 5 p.m. on April 8th and unable to accept any additional proposals after that time, because we have scheduled meetings with the legislative and resolutions committees just a week or two later. Then they will start the conversation around the position proposals. They'll start doing their review, and we need to compile all of the position proposals and documents for them to review in advance of those meetings. So April 8th is the final deadline at 5 p.m. No exceptions. So you will receive a confirmation following your submission. It will essentially, it's essentially automated, but you'll know because it will be the full form that you've submitted online that you can keep for your records. Step 5. In April and May, you may get some questions. If you submit a position proposal, you may get some questions from me on behalf of the Legislative or Resolutions Committee about your position proposal. The question could be, did you know there was a position already like this already here? Would you be willing to just add your language to that? What did you mean by these words? Are there some additional materials that you could submit to support your rationale? So just be on the ready if you submit a proposal that there may be some follow-up questions that are intended to help guide the legislative and resolutions committees as they determine whether or not they will vote to give it a do pass or a do not pass recommendation. All that being said, regardless of if they give it a do pass or do not pass recommendation, and they have to give one or the other with a majority vote of the committee, your position proposal will go to General Assembly in the handbook. Step 6, in July and September, we anticipate that the General Assembly handbook will be released in July, and you will have opportunity from July through September, when General Assembly occurs, to review the legislative proposals. And I should actually say legislative and permanent position proposals with your board prior to General Assembly. So it'll all come out in a handbook. Right now, the handbook that's posted on our website is last year's handbook. When the new handbook is available in July, we will post it there. There will also be other resources like this one that you can review in the case that you kind of forgot what you were supposed to do during that time. But in essence, you're reviewing all of the position proposals that are in the handbook and determining as a board what you want to do when it comes time to vote, if you want to vote for or against it, and if you want to engage in any debate around it. The General Assembly webpage will keep you up to date as to timelines and release dates, as well as the handbook. And then, of course, you can always rely on WSSDA staff to answer questions and help you along the way. Step 7, which is in September, prepare to attend and vote on WSSDA's General Assembly. Please identify at least one voting delegate, although you may have voting delegates that rotate throughout the course of the 2 hybrid days of General Assembly. General Assembly will be held September 20th and 21st. That's a Friday and Saturday. There will be, of course, a free virtual option so that every school board has the opportunity to attend from wherever they reside. However, if you prefer to come in person this year, it will be in the SeaTac area as it was held in Spokane last year. We rotate between the east and the west side every year. Following General Assembly, we will update the position platform so that all of the changes that are adopted at General Assembly are included in a new positions catalog. That positions catalog is the one that you saw before, but it will look different as of October 1st of this year. And you will then be able to have a conversation with your board about which of those positions, new or returning, that you wish to prioritize through the position window. I'm sorry, the prioritization window. That will occur for approximately 2 weeks following General Assembly so that you can quickly turn around and select your top 10 to 15 positions from the full legislative position list. And then once the priorities have been compiled and adopted by the WSSDA board, we would ask that you share the WSSDA priorities with your legislators and your community, quite honestly, so that you can start advocating as early as possible in preparation for the 2025 legislative session. Okay. Some additional resources to help you along the way. Just wanted to make sure if you're new to this, you might be saying, well, what the heck is General Assembly? Well, let me tell you. We would say it's the premier opportunity to ensure your district's voice is represented in WSSDA's advocacy platform, very specifically in its event that happens 1 time per year, most often in September, usually for 2 days. And at this point in time, offered in a hybrid format. And by hybrid, I mean you can either participate in person or virtually, depending on what works best for you and your board and your district. It is the opportunity for position proposals to be adopted, which guides our advocacy work year-round. At General Assembly, there really are 3 areas that can be revised or updated. One are the WSSDA bylaws. Bylaws are the mechanism by which WSSDA governs WSSDA. So member suggested, member approved, member adopted, and member governed. So this means that WSSDA consists of the 1,477 locally elected state school directors, and the bylaws govern WSSDA as it represents you. WSSDA bylaws are only brought forward by the WSSDA board. And so the position window is specifically for legislative and permanent positions, whereas the WSSDA board can bring bylaw changes forward. Definition of legislative positions. I mentioned before that these are more timely, relevant, maybe contemporary issues that have just recently emerged. We received quite a few position proposals during the pandemic, as there were quite a few issues that were emerging during that time that we did not have positions for. Also, like I mentioned earlier, artificial intelligence wasn't something that we were grappling with necessarily in 2021, so it emerged as a new position proposal in the 2023 General Assembly. So it's likely that we will continue in this as the world changes and evolves. We'll see new position proposals come forward. So legislative positions are a way for us to be relevant and responsive to emerging issues and trends. They are definitely written in a more action-oriented way, and they are the positions that are part of the prioritization process. Only legislative positions are prioritized. Permanent positions, as I mentioned earlier, are the foundational core principles of widespread and long-lasting concern for school directors on behalf of students and other education organizations. Positions around permanent positions include issues such as simple majority for school bonds. We've been fighting that one for a long time. It used to include simple majority for school bonds and levies, but we achieved the levy part. We're still working on the bond part. So you get a sense for what permanent positions are. They really are the long-lasting core beliefs and principles of the organization. And I leave you with my email address and my phone number, both of which you are more than welcome to use at any time. Please feel free to reach out if you have any questions about this or any other process.